welcome back to the Let's Talk About Things podcast. This is episode 8. We are talking today because as this is going live, we're launching into the holiday season. So we're talking Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the crazy festivities, and this is also all the holidays where you get shoved into a room with so many different family members, so many different personalities, and we thought, you know what, our people need some help because family drama is real, family holiday stress is real.
The overstimulation.
Absolutely. So we are talking today about just anything we thought that would be helpful going into the holidays to help make it a little less stressful, help you manage those relationships a little bit better. Things I've learned from someone who's married and juggles, in-laws and my own family and all of those things. And Lacey is someone who has to go into the holidays single and what that looks like. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but for some people it can feel very lonely.
I bring the alcohol to the events.
Yeah, the alcohol helps too, so.
But no, absolutely. And guys, we wanted to dive into this in terms of family and the holidays because Thanksgiving is right around the corner. We are absolutely certain that there are people out there that are struggling with their in-laws. They're struggling with their own family. They're struggling with, oh, well, he lives here and they live here. How are we going to do it? So I'm kind of going to put Holly a little bit more on the spot here just because she is married and because she has been having to divide and conquer for the family. But we also made some highlights and some points that we think you guys would really appreciate. So I'm just going to get right into it. And Holly, in terms of how you've gone through each holiday season now, married. I mean, yes, you were dating Zach as well, and you kind of did that, but now officially married for what, 2-3 years?
2.
Okay, so
half-ish.
When you're trying to split your time fairly between your families and your in-laws, and I mean, there's no hate there either. Like
no.
we wonderful relationship. What is kind of where you see a lot of disconnect with people in general that have come up to you, or just in general for the holidays, splitting time, your time, your family's time, your husband's time between multiple families?
I think the first thing, it's both a blessing and a curse that all of our families live in the same town. It's a wonderful blessing because we're surrounded by an amazing village. Mm-hmm. So is our child. So 9 times out of 10, it's a huge blessing. But during the holidays, it can feel more like a curse because you're trying to figure out, especially on days like Thanksgiving, where you have one single day to hit multiple houses. And it's exhausting. And in our situation, my husband's parents are divorced, and so we have 3 families, 3 amazing families, but you have to try to hit 3 houses for each holiday. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I forgot your exact question.
No, but I mean, it's good to give them a little bit of background as well, but like when you're trying to split your time between these families without letting anybody or making anybody feel left out, or like more time is given to one family versus another, what are some things that you've just learned over the years are best for your family, or some of the things that you struggled with and you were like, man, I can't seem to figure out a solution for this?
One of the most powerful things for me to wrap my head around was you can't make everybody happy, and you shouldn't try to. Mm-hmm. Do your best, but I think you, your husband, and your kids, you need to decide what you, as that family unit, are going to do for the holidays. Communicate that early to your extended family, meaning your parents, in-laws, whoever, and at that point, you are no longer responsible for their feelings about your plans. If you and your husband and your kids have decided that this is your plan for the holiday and this is what is best for y'all, then everybody else can either get on board or they can do their own thing, and that's totally fine. So I had to get my head around quit trying to make everybody happy, because you can't do that. There's too many personalities, too many people involved. You can't be in 3 places at once all the time. So you need to just make the best plan you can come up with. Try to see everybody if you can, but just kind of
Well, should you be putting, I mean, a lot of people I think are like, well, that's good and all, but I'm still exhausted trying to put things together on a calendar, get everybody's schedules together on the calendar, because then sometimes you might have to go to a Thanksgiving earlier than the actual day, and same with Christmas, same with Christmas Eve. But in terms of y'all's relationship and how you've kind of worked it out, at the end of the day, though, with anybody watching this, you have to put your immediate family first. So you and your husband and your daughter or whomever. So in terms of doing that, now that you do have your daughter in the picture, what are some things that you are setting boundaries about in terms of the holidays? How are you saying, okay, this comes first, this is my family? Because at the end of the day, your daughter's going to remember what she spends with you and your husband, not necessarily just the other families, she will, but what you create and the holidays and the traditions that you start with your family. How are you going about that?
So this is the first year we've had a child. So my daughter is 8 months old, and so this is the first year where we have a child, and she is the first grandkid on my husband's side of the family, so it's a big deal. It's her first Christmas, first Thanksgiving, all this stuff. There's a lot of excitement. So we've had to say to ourselves, okay, we know we need to see everybody because this is a big deal to everybody, but I think let me back up. So biblically, the Bible commands that a husband is to leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. That is the leave and cleave.
It's in Genesis.
And the wife is supposed to become one with her husband. So once you are married, you and your husband and your kids, if you have any, that is your immediate family. Not your parents, not your in-laws. They become secondary family. And mature in-laws and parents and whoever understand that. And I will understand that when my daughter or future kids grow up and be married, they are no longer, and in general, your kids do not owe you anything. So once they are married, that is their family unit. What they decide as a married couple is what they're doing. And if I'm a mother or a mother-in-law, I have to be okay with that.
And it's hard. I mean,
it's hard.
Coming at this from now that you are a mother, because one day your daughter's going to grow up and she's going to meet somebody, and hopefully by the grace of God, he's amazing and he treats her like a queen. But there's going to be times when she can't come and hang out, or she can't come and see you for the holidays. For in-laws, or even for mom-in-laws, dad-in-laws, grandparents that are watching this, even if they do, I don't know, we're still so new, but what's advice you would give to them? And because I know a lot of times it's harder when you're not a mom or when you're not a mother-in-law, so, or a father-in-law and a dad. How would you go about telling them, okay, think of it in this way? That way they understand where you're coming from and where all this stress is building up.
Well, and it's funny because I was actually talking to our mother about this just a few days ago, and she was saying that so our brother lives out of town, so we don't always get to see him and his wife and our niece for the holidays. And I was asking my mom, like, were you okay with that? How did you handle that? And she just said, I never felt like y'all owed me anything. Like, I was your mother. I gave you everything I had. But then once you got married, she was saying something about my brother specifically, and saying, like, I've watched how he's formed his own little family, and he's being a good husband and a good father, and he visits as often as he possibly can, and he's making good decisions for his family, and none of that needs to be stressful because of me, is what she was saying. She's like, I don't need to put any stress on him or make his life more complicated. She's like, whatever any of my kids decide to do for the holidays is wonderful, and I'll be there if you invite me. If you don't, totally fine. I think you just, as a mom, and I'm thinking with my kids when they grow up, whatever my kids plan to do, great. That is your family unit now. If you've decided that's what's best for you.
Well, and as a mom or a dad, I think what she was getting at as well is she raised him better, and she raised him to do better for his family. So now that he's implementing it and she's seeing it in action, you should want to see that. You should want to see that your kids are making a beautiful life because of you and because of the way that you raised them. Now, one thing he does do, which I think is brilliant, and it might be a good tactic. We did it as kids, our parents parents did it as when we were kids, is we switched off Thanksgivings and Christmases. So if we spent our Thanksgiving with my mom's side of the family, then we would spend Christmas with dad's side of the family. And then next year we'd spend Thanksgiving with dad's side of the family, and so on and so forth. I think that's also a happy medium, but also both sides of the family were very understanding that we lived in two separate cities. So Logan's doing the same thing. He's visiting for Thanksgiving because last year Thanksgiving was at her side of the family. So now he's visiting this year, and so on and so forth.
I think the challenge is when you're in a spot like my husband and I, where everybody lives in the same town.
Yeah.
And you want to enjoy your holidays. You don't want to spend your holidays.
You want to spend it with your loved
all over
ones.
the place, eating 3 different times.
Oh,
I mean, it can just get exhausting. And I think something that I'm gonna do my best at when my children are grown is remembering, hey, I got my time to be a mom. I got my time to have all the family traditions, to do it my way, to do it the way I wanted to do it with my kids. Now it's my kids' turn to do that with their family, and I need to just back up and let them do it. It's their turn now.
Yeah.
I think that's huge, and it's very freeing if you're a grandparent or in-law or someone that's got grown children. Because you were asking, what can that person do? And I think
well, and then this is the time for you to spend back with your husband. And I know I've talked to a lot of, even at my church and even at my Bible study, I've spoken to moms and grandmas that are so wise. And they even say, like, look, at the end of the day, you trying to control your children, or you trying to control where they go and what they do, is a sense of pride that you can't let go of. And it's a sense of control that you can't seem to let go of. But I asked them, how do you get past that? And they said, because we almost forget that once our kids grow up and they go off and they do what they were raised to do, and what you pray God will protect them to do, is we forget to go back to our spouse. We forget that we were a girlfriend and a boyfriend before we were a wife and a husband and a mother and a father. It's almost like now it's y'all's turn to return to dating each other and to go back together. And so many people, whether they're happy with their spouse or not, hopefully you watched our episode prior, hopefully with your marriage centered around Christ, you guys can start to go take trips together. You can do things together and allow your kids to do what you've trained them to do. Yeah, I think
something that's hard for people that have trouble letting go of their grown children, not letting go, but letting go of control of the holiday plans to their grown children. I think it's because change is so hard, and change makes you realize the passing of time and that you're getting older, and that things are changing. And that, I think if you're like someone like me, who you're the young family and you have parents and in-laws, elders above you, having that compassion for them and realizing that, oh man, they feel old when they're no longer needed, or people don't, because they don't have the kids anymore, so they almost feel just like, oh man, like time is marching on, and
that can be so heartbreaking too, because as much as we love them and we want to be around them, we do have to be fair. And I know you've had to be fair. I know, especially being single, I've had to spend Christmas mornings by myself. I've had to spend certain things, and I've had to see gifts or just other activities that I used to do with my immediate siblings and with my immediate family dwindle, because you all have your own lives now. And as much as I love that and I'm supportive and I'm behind y'all, it's hard sometimes, because being single, you have to find a way to enjoy the holidays yourself, and you have to be willing to let that go and let them live their life. But like you said, I also look at it as our parents are getting older. We want to spend as much time as them as we possibly can without favoring one or the other. But I think a good tactic for people to try, which you've already said, is open communication, and let your family and in-laws and grandparents or whomever, aunts, uncles, let them know that these are my boundaries this year. This is what we're doing. If you have a problem with it, then that's not my problem, because you have to do what's best for your immediate family now, all the while still trying to be fair. So I would say, would you say that setting those expectations and setting those boundaries early is a good happy medium for both sides?
Yes. In fact, we have already made our plans for Christmas. So it's not even December.
Well, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Well, Thanksgiving is very tricky because we have 3 households to hit in a single day. Christmas is a little easier because you can do multiple days, but
Yeah.
Thanksgiving's a little tricky. This year, we kind of have to keep it fair, and we have to think about, okay, last year, who did we spend a large part of the day with? Okay, well, that person's going to get a smaller part of the day this year. We're going to give the person that got shortchanged last year a little more time.
Do you
this
set
year.
like 2-hour limits, hour limits, or like what's something that somebody, maybe there's somebody that's struggling with, like you said, their husband's family's divorced, or their family's divorced. How do you divide and conquer so many different people? And what if our viewers are like, or our listeners are saying, well, shoot, I've got one in different states. I've got some that don't even talk to each other. They don't even want to be in the same room together. How is there some sort of almost cohesive advice that reaches everybody? And that's kind of a broad question, but
And it's hard because everyone's got a very individual, different situation. But all I can speak to is in our case, we've got 3 different families. Like I said, my husband's parents are divorced, so we've got 2 families there, and then we've got my parents. So 3 different extended families that we all want to see. And we're very blessed in that all those families are very accommodating, very understanding. So this year, what we're doing is my husband's father we're spending most of our Thanksgiving Day with him because last year he only got maybe an hour or 2. He got shortchanged last year, which he was totally okay with. He understood completely. But we thought, okay, to be fair, he's going to get more time this year than he did last year. And our parents are super chill. And
Yeah, they don't
he
care.
invited them over to his Thanksgiving. So my parents are going to join my father-in-law. And so we're going to kind of combine our Thanksgivings with 2 of the families. And then we're, of course, going to make time for my husband's mom's side at some point. And I don't know exactly hour by hour how that's going to look. But we're in constant communication with these family members.
Communication.
Saying, hey, here's what time we're eating at Dad's. We're going to come over to your house at this time. And I think even one year, we spent most of our day with my husband's side, and I told y'all, hey, we're going to come have pie with y'all. We may not be eating dinner because we're stuffed, but we're going to have a slice of pie, hang out, play some games, whatever. I think when you communicate that early and you say, here's what we're doing the best we can, bear with us, I think most mature people get on board with that and they understand it, especially when, my husband's a firefighter, so his schedule's crazy. So that makes it even worse. But I think, communicating that, setting that expectation, and not letting people guilt trip you into changing your plans. If you know that this is the best plan for your family, don't let people make you feel guilty about it. Stick to it. Grown adults can manage their own emotions. So if they're trying to guilt trip you, that's on them. Don't let them do that to you.
Well, I think another thing is if just from where we stood, if people are able, I understand people are in different states, they may even be on bad terms with each other, but if you can combine both families and you have a good relationship with your in-laws and your in-laws love your parents or your parents love your in-laws, whatever it may be, combine them. Have one big giant party. You know how much fun that would be? All of it, everyone together. So if you're on good terms, if you don't have certain situations barricading that, I would say try that. But also, what do you say if your in-laws or parents or anybody, cousins, aunts, uncles, anybody says, but it's our tradition, we've always done this? And again, it goes a little bit back into that guilt trip, but it's always but we've always done it this way.
You may have when your child was your child, but now your child is an adult with their own family. So the traditions you might have had when they were your child, those are done now. Your child with their spouse might choose to continue, but if they don't, that is 100% their decision, and you've got to be okay with that. Jessie, my daughter, we're going to have traditions we do with her, but when she grows up and gets married, I don't expect her to keep doing that. If she wants to, great. If she wants to invite me, great, I'm there. I'd love to be there, but I don't have that expectation of her that she keep doing things the way she always did when she was a kid. that doesn't make sense because I'm raising her to be independent. I'm raising her to be self-sufficient. So I shouldn't be surprised when she turns out to be that way.
Well, and the greatest gift, I think, is when, or as a parent, you've done your job when your grown kids want to hang out with you. So I think starting this type of behavior and this type of relinquish of control early on helps in the future when they say, hey, you know what, Mom, Dad, I have an obligation. Do you mind? But they know that you're willing to be okay with it, so they'll come back or they'll find time for you. A lot of times, sometimes you just can't please everybody and you're not going to make it to everything. But if we turn the wheel a bit, what if somebody, a listener or a viewer, is saying, okay, I think I might be the problem. I think I might be the in-law or the aunt, the uncle, the grandparent, whatever it is, that's saying, man, I really wish more people were at my house. Or what if somebody's on this other end going, how can I give up that control? How can I let them move on with their lives? I love them. I don't want to be like this. But how do I say, okay, see us when you can without feeling left out, that FOMO feeling? What's some advice for that side? Let's flip the coin a bit.
Yeah, I mean, and that's hard. I haven't been there yet. My daughter's only 8 months old, so I'm sure when I'm a grandmother or whatever, hopefully one day I'll understand better.
Yeah.
I would say, like Lacey and I always say, take a look inward. Are you just feeling lonely? Are you feeling the passage of time? Are you feeling like you just miss being, having little kids around?
Yeah.
Are you just feeling...
Do you think self-inviting would be weird? Like if they said, do you mind if I join you for Thanksgiving, and their family, would they mind? Or do you mind if, depending, let's say if they're married or not or divorced, whatever, what if the parents or the in-law is invited to the other side? I mean, do you see what I'm trying to say?
I think you could say it in a way where it wouldn't come off as self-inviting. You could say something like, oh, well, since y'all are going to be over there for Thanksgiving, would it be easier on y'all if I just met you there and I could hang out there? That way you don't have to say, well, then can I come? You don't have to sound desperate. I think you could say, oh, you know, would it be easier on y'all? Look for ways to make it easier on your kids who are grown. And because you understand that they're trying to make everybody happy, they're trying to see everybody. Look for ways to kind of make it easier.
Be like, hey, do you mind if I bring something? What if I brought the pie, or what if I brought the stuffing, or whatever? And I think that's with Zach's dad. So your father-in-law. We were thinking of doing a Thanksgiving. We always do at our house, but this year he called us. He called our mother specifically. Her father-in-law called our mother and said, hey, do you guys want to join us? And it was a no-brainer because we love their family. We love you. You hit the jackpot with in-laws. I know it's not always easy for anybody on any side, even if you're dating. We're not saying this is easy, y'all, but
I've got an amazing family.
Yeah,
it's hard.
But it's the willingness to make everybody come together, and we shouldn't be dividing holidays. We shouldn't be doing that. But everybody's situation is different. Some people have families that hate each other. They're in a battle with each other, or they don't even talk to each other. They're in states apart. But in this situation, he called our mother and was like, would you guys want to come? It was a no-brainer for our family because we were like, heck yeah, that means they're cooking and we get to hang out and mingle. And of course, you and I, with our gluten and our issues, we're bringing our own food. But at the end of the day, we're together. There's a community, and there's some type of...
I remember my father-in-law coming to my husband and I and saying, the words out of his mouth were, we watched y'all be run ragged last year and in all the years past. Would it be easier on y'all if we just invited everyone over here this year? That way you didn't have to be in so many locations. He got our permission first to see if that would work, which is huge. Like, check with your family. Say, hey, would this work for you? Would this make your life easier? And of course, my husband and I were like, yeah, that would be fantastic.
Well, his dad can cook, so I'm going to be over there.
And this is my mother-in-law has done this too. She's always invited our side of the family to anything they do. So we're very blessed in the sense that we've got that, that community and people that get along. If you don't have that, that is so hard, and I think that's when I go back to, you just have to do what's best for
at the end of the day, focus on your family.
Yeah, and if people get butthurt about it, that's kind of on them. That's hard.
Yeah, well, coming from somebody, I mean, we've touched on great points here, just to kind of reiterate for those that are just listening or viewing. It's setting those expectations early. Making sure to put, y'all, boundaries are huge. We're not saying to set expectations and be disrespectful, but
No.
set expectations, communicate your plans. So again, setting boundaries, communication is key. Do what is best for your immediate family. So husband, your wife, your kids, but you're also not responsible for other people's feelings, your family's feelings. You're not responsible for their decisions. You have to be willing to let go of the people pleasing here, is what I'm getting. But also the whole, it's our tradition, be willing to accept change. Just because something is a tradition doesn't mean it can't be molded into a new tradition.
I don't think I've
you
ever
can
had
always
a
do that.
holiday that looked exactly the same as the year before. It's
But
you
it's
just
beautiful if
never
you're
know.
if you're so stuck on something in the past or doing something so similar to the way you've always done it. Isn't that also, don't turn back, because then you'll turn into a pillar of salt biblically? I mean, you can't focus on the past so much that you're not welcoming the future and the present. But that's also part of another point you brought up was leave and cleave. So those were some of the biggest things I took away from what you were saying, because it's very hard, and we know that, or as you just said, everybody's situation is different, and there could be families that we have no clue how y'all handle things, but at the end of the day, you must create those boundaries, those guidelines, and those
I would
respectful.
say, whatever your plans are, be as inclusive as possible. If there is a way for you to include everybody, include people, go with that. Now, my husband and I always say, the day that we get into a big enough house, we would love to host. If you're having the problem with where to visit and whose house to go to, maybe say, hey, we're going to host Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah.
We would love all of y'all to come. If they come, great. If they don't, that's on them.
Yeah, and see, some people do have that gift to be able to have that, but for those that don't, that's a good point.
Our house is a little small right now, but one day we would love to be able to say, hey, our house is open to you. We're hosting. Don't worry about cooking. We got this. We would love that. That would be so nice to just have everybody under one roof. So if you have that ability, if you've got a big enough house, if you're a good cook, if whatever, that might be a way around a lot of the zigzagging all over town and the country. So
well, that's a good point. It's kind of like more of a safe haven or a meet in the middle kind of thing, but also we understand that not everybody's willing to change, but at the end of the day, you can't please everybody.
And you can't, I think we've said it before, you're not responsible for their reaction. If you've been kind and respectful and made a good plan for your family, then let the chips fall where they may.
And enjoy it. Like, at the end of the day, you can't think about other people that are being sour and negative. Enjoy your moment with your family. Enjoy being in the presence of your loved ones. And that's what holidays should be about.
And one last tip I would leave you with. Jess Connolly is an author. She writes a book called Why Women Are So Tired.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a really great book. And one of the things she talks about for the holidays is asking yourself, how do I want to feel when the holiday is over?
Yeah.
And do you want to feel exhausted? Do you want to feel stressed out? Or do you want to feel happy and content? And what's going to help get you to that place? And people pleasing in most of the situations is not it.
You want to create a loving environment, and if people want to join, they're always welcome. If they don't, that's out of our control. We just have to pray for them.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of beginning with the end in mind. How do I want this holiday to go? How do I want to feel afterwards? And if the goal is to feel stressed out and burnout, by all means, people please. But then don't be surprised when it doesn't go very well. So. But
I do think those were good, and open communication with your family, whether there's negativity or some type of discord there. It's, at the end of the day, you got to focus on your family. And maybe if you can't get to somebody during one holiday season, or you just cannot, no matter what way you turn it or which pencil you put to it, you cannot do it, then that's your answer. Sometimes you just have to be able to say, okay, we can't do it this year, but this is what we'll do to make up for it. Or like you said, try to host and bring everyone to you. Those that can, great. Those that can't. It doesn't mean there has to be so much negativity and so much hate, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
And this is something else I would say that would help is, especially if you all live in the same town, the holidays shouldn't be the only time you're getting together.
Yeah.
If that's the only time you're getting together, I have some questions. But if you regularly spend time with all of these family members,
It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Then if you're not able to make it one holiday, they're like, oh, no big deal. We see you most Sundays anyway, or whatever the case may be. Like, if they know that they see you regularly, then it doesn't feel so lonesome when you don't show up one holiday or something. So making time for your family all the other 365 days of the year helps a lot. So, you shouldn't be seeing your family just on the holidays. I know situations might be different, but that helps a lot too.
Well, and just to kind of wrap that up, because I don't want us to beat a dead horse here, but for those of you coming from the single side of things during the holidays, I know firsthand, I know how difficult it is to be single during the holidays. Other people have different stories. It could be bad past, it could be current situations, it could be deaths in the family, it could be anything like that. But in any event, when you're constantly asked at the dinner table, you got a boyfriend yet? You got a girlfriend yet? How's the dating life? How's this? Try to go into it, because now this year we've got so many families coming together, and I can't wait to see everybody. Try not to look at it as they're coming from a bad place. A lot of times when you're coming from, I'm tired of hearing that, or that bitterness, sometimes it's because you're annoyed with it. Instead of loving your season of singleness, instead of enjoying that you don't have anybody to annoy you or mess up your house or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to come at it with a different mindset of, oh, you know what? If, let's say, so-and-so says, hey, you got a boyfriend yet? And just say, you know what? Not yet, but God's got him. He's waiting on him. He's taking care of him. I'm patient. And a lot of times that will shut the conversation down, because if you start to add to the whole, oh, heck no, they're, men and girls or whatever suck, and you add to that bitterness, then it starts to create that kind of weird discussion. But for me, I just want to be there for those that, my mindset going into this, because I have my nieces now and we've got a beautiful family, a bigger family now growing. My mindset is, how can I help? How can I be of aid? Because I don't necessarily have to worry about getting a million things planned out. How can I help with the cooking? How can I help with the planning? What do we need to do for people's accommodations, allergies? Like, that's how I look at it, because also I've been selfish in the past in terms of, well, what did you make me? What did you make me? Instead, now I'm like, okay, how can I be of service? How can I bring something to the table that's going to ease somebody's stress during the holiday season? Because it's a lot. And being single, I'm not saying being single doesn't mean you don't have your own problems, because you do. If you work a full-time job like me, you're doing a podcast, or you're traveling every other week to do something, it can get a lot. But try to remember that you have a family that cares about you and does want you involved, does want you to be there. If you don't have that, there's other avenues. Try to talk to your friends, try to talk to anybody that's invited you somewhere. If you're like, Lacey, I don't have anybody, well, then I would seek, but also I would probably try to seek a church. There's lots of communities out there that have Thanksgivings or Christmases and they have time together, but being single doesn't have to be a chore. It doesn't have to be something so bitter.
You can look for ways to help, because like we said, my father-in-law invited our whole side over, and one of the things he said to my husband and I was, hey, I know you and Lacey don't eat gluten, and there's a lot that you don't eat. He's like, I'm taking care of like a lot of the meats and the main things. If y'all could bring sides that are gluten-free and stuff that you like to eat, that would be great. So to Lacey, that's great. That's one way she can help. That's what she can contribute, instead of focusing on, I don't have a date to bring. I don't have.
Well, and then that mindset right there, in my own experience, has taught me that's why I'm single, because it almost reeks of desperation when you're sitting there going, oh yeah, another year I'm single, or oh darn, no. It's like, okay, but you're not appreciating where you're at right now. So why would God bring you a boyfriend or a girlfriend? If you can't be happy with where you're at, why would you get more? So with the holidays, I know a lot of times, I mean, it's funny to joke about bringing the alcohol. That may be true, or maybe it's just BYOB. Okay, that may be well and true, because trust me, I've brought some punches before. I've brought some wine. Like, it's very true, y'all. It's very funny. But at the end of the day, try to look at it as, okay, instead of focusing on, I'm single, single, I don't have a family to go to. Think of it as, I don't have to worry about that right now. I don't have to worry about the stress of what we just discussed for the past 30, 40 minutes. Instead, say, okay, how can I help? Because I know it's stressful on my family. I know it's stressful on my mom and dad or my siblings. Try to figure out a way to be a servant, and like I've said in many episodes before, a God servant, a God-fearing servant. But that's how I at least would give my advice right now. If you had asked me 5 years ago, maybe that was a little different. But now I look at it as, change your mindset. You're not single, and it's not the holidays are so annoying being single. It's, wow, I get to help others during the holiday season that are dealing with so much more than me. And I have more time on my hands gifted by God because I'm in isolation, so I'm going to use it well.
And you get to kick back and relax. I joke all the time with my husband. I was like, we wasted so much time before children. We had so much free time that we just wasted. And where did it all go? And we love our child, and we wouldn't trade it for anything.
Gosh, yeah.
But we look back and we're like, oh my God, we had so much free time.
Well, and I try to help out with my nieces as much as I can. I'll grab them. I'll go have fun. We'll go take them. I love that, though. They're not a chore to me. I love my beautiful nieces, and I'm like, give them to me. I want to play with them. But I want to encourage others that if you are kind of still if you are still single and you're in a season of bitterness and you're kind of just a little hurt, which is I understand. Trust me, I do. But I challenge you this year to look at it as, okay, how can I help? How can I put my pride and my selfishness aside and say, okay, this is a bigger thing than me. This is a wonderful holiday. We've got a beautiful family. Everyone's together. Or depending on your situation with your family, how can you be a part? How can you set yourself apart in a godly way to be there for people during the holidays? Because it's not always fun. Yes, they're stressful, but there's ways you can change your mindset.
What would you say to someone who maybe they have that crazy aunt or uncle that always picks on them about their singleness, or always
tease them,
makes them the brunt of a joke? Like, how do you handle that gracefully?
I mean, I think that's one thing, especially piggybacking what I've said. I get that all the time. I have people constantly teasing me or constantly saying, well, it's because of this, when they don't.
Do they think do they just not know how else to have a conversation?
Most of the time, because of my knowledge now and because of the grace that I've asked God to give me and the patience, when people are teasing me a lot, and I know they're just joking, but also, as you know, some of the people that have come at me with that are coming from a place of ill intent. That's when all I do.
Not aunt and uncle. I just
no, just people in general.
But I just threw that out there.
Thinking about it is, I don't look at it anymore as they're trying to get a rise out of me. I look at it as they're hurting. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean it as they're not happy with whatever's going on in their life, so they have to pick apart mine. And in response to that, all I say is, I'm okay. I'm doing well. And when God wants to bring him to me, I'll be ready. And that's all I can say, because when you feed the fire of people that are teasing you, that only encourages them to tease you more. When you are wiser and you stay quiet and you stay calm, they don't want to mess with you anymore. So if you're dealing with families and parents and grandparents that want grandbabies, and why aren't you getting married, and haven't you talked to this girl, and haven't you talked to this guy, just say, you know what, I'm working on me, I'm doing well in my career, or I'm doing well in this, and if God wants me to meet him or her, he will. And just leave it at that. And most of the time, I don't get picked on. Or, I don't get bugged.
The old art of changing the subject.
Yeah.
Answering the question quickly and then asking about their life. So everything's going with you, you know.
And I mean, I mean, I've done this before, so I would say this with kindness is, don't try to pick on them back. You know, don't try to get even, because then that starts an argument. Just say, like, for example, I had this the other day. I was at a conference for my job, and one of the gentlemen that's at these conferences, it's 90% male. So I will always already know, I got to be on guard. I got to guard my heart. And this one guy, when we were talking to our customers, he was like, how are you single? Like, haven't you been on dates? Kind of like poking at it. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm single because God is still working on my husband, and he's also working on me. I don't want to meet my husband and ruin it until I'm ready to meet him and thrive with him. And the guy goes, That's the first time I've ever heard anybody say that. He was like, most of the time people respond with, oh, it's because they suck or because this generation, you know. But I responded, honestly, that's how I feel. I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that God is preparing my husband. He's preparing my heart to welcome him. And I don't want to rush that. I don't want to rush what's meant for me and what's planned for me. So going into holidays as well, when you've got aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, whoever that are teasing you, remain calm. Remain calm and don't feed the fire would be my biggest thing.
And stay busy. Like, don't sit there.
Go help in the kitchen.
Yeah, go do something. Stay busy. Stay out of their hair. Like, make yourself scarce.
But like,
nothing else works.
I mean, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. People know that. But wrapping everything up and dealing with the holiday stress, trying to remain calm in the chaos, making sure you still spend time with Christ. I want to ask, do you have, just on a lighter note, is there a favorite Thanksgiving food that you have, or that you, because everyone's like, oh, I love the stuffing, I love the green beans. What is something you look for at the Thanksgiving table? And y'all leave your comments too. Like, what is your favorite Thanksgiving meal?
You know, I'm one of
And don't forget the cranberry sauce.
I'm one of
haters.
those weird people that I could ditch the turkey and fill my entire plate with sides.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sides girl.
But okay, I like the turkey if it's got gravy.
Yeah,
You gotta put gravy on
my
it.
My husband makes this smoked pepper turkey that I love a lot, but I think I zero in on the sweet potatoes wherever those are.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like you can eat those all year long. Like,
yeah. I mean, there's that. I'm trying to think what else. I like cream.
I hone in. I'm not gonna lie. I make sure that Mima's corn, our Mima's corn,
yeah,
I hone in. Well, actually, I'll make a healthier recipe and I'll share it for y'all. But Mima's corn, and then also I hone in on Mom's marshmallow dessert.
Oh, yeah.
I honed in on that. Make sure it's at the table.
These are like weird things that just our family has. It's like this crazy corn with green chilies in it. You can
it's not crazy corn. It's white choux peg corn with cream cheese and a splash of milk, some butter, and some green chilies. It's not the healthiest thing, but it is such a staple in that tray that eventually gets blended together, and you must have it. Yeah. Like, it has to go with the turkey. It has to go with the mashed potatoes. It has to go with the green beans. It has to go with which stuffing. I'm not crazy about stuffing. I'm not gonna lie.
I could care less.
But I'm not super big on like, oh, I must have sweet potatoes. I must have this. I look for that corn.
You know what is something that our family has never had, but it's like super common in most families, is mac and cheese.
Oh, no, I was just thinking that. The mac and cheese, because I think we've already got so many carbs.
We've never had it at a holiday dinner, ever.
I think that's more of a Christmas thing, or am I not?
No, my husband's family has mac and cheese.
He has mac and cheese every day.
Well, I'm just saying, and I've heard this from other families, like mac and cheese is one of those things, it's like the corn to us. It has to be there, or otherwise, what are you doing?
Well, and I do love, like, I know Aunt Kelly, she makes that, what was it that she made? Oh my gosh, I know. She makes that celery with the cream cheese. We always have these like finger foods that I fill up on before the actual meal.
For sure.
But the celery, the corn, and I would say Mom's dessert is probably what I look for. And
I love pie. I could care less about a lot of the real food. I find the pie most of the time, but
I like pumpkin pie, don't get me wrong, but if there is a delicious cinnamony apple pie somewhere, give me a scoop of vanilla bean ice cream on that thing, and I am a happy camper. Leave me alone. Let me sit in solitude. It's almost like prayer. Leave me the hell alone. Like,
I feel like our family's foods are so weird. We have celery, corn with green chilies.
Okay, if they were to come, if y'all, you know what, we'll just take pictures. Stay tuned for clippets of it, but I promise you'll understand why, because it is delicious. And if you want to come to our Thanksgiving, you're more than welcome to, but it's something you got to understand.
Yeah, and I'm excited this year because my father-in-law is making the turkey, and
he can cook.
He can cook, so I'm excited about that. So tell us in the comments how you handle family stress, family holidays. Leave your tips that maybe we haven't talked about that'll help someone else. Leave your favorite Thanksgiving.
Because there's something we probably didn't cover, and if y'all have struggled with this and you're like, hey, we tried this trick one year and now it's worked for the good, or maybe you're still trying to figure it out, please let us know, because that's something that obviously every story is different.
Let us know, does your family have mac and cheese?
Yeah.
Like, is that a thing for your family? Because
if we can post little clippets on our Instagram, follow follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok. I want to post that recipe so they can try it for themselves and bring it. But I promise you that corn is not something you want to like. It is. You don't want to miss it. It is so good. And I'm the weirdo over here that likes cranberry sauce. I like it. So I always
homemade or out of a can.
I've only ever had it out of a can.
Okay, so that's a big debate too. Do you eat your cranberry sauce homemade?
Who has time to make it homemade? Who got time for that? You open the can, you flip it over, you poke a hole, and then it comes out. Who's got time for that? Like, come on now, just put the damn cranberry sauce on the pan.
Mac and cheese debate and the cranberry sauce debate. Two big debates. Let us know what side of the divide you are.
Either way, either way, we'll share some of our stuff. Of course, we'll be posting during the holiday and Thanksgiving, but try to give us some of your tips. Anything that we've said that you wanted us to elaborate on, message us, anything. You all know how it goes with us. Come to our comments. We come welcoming you guys with every knowledge and every piece of advice.
And share the podcast with your family and friends. Enjoy your holidays.
Share the love.
Eat some good food. Try not to
wear sweatpants.
Yes, stretchy pants, pace yourself, all the things.
And then we'll be back in December for our Christmas episodes, and those should be really fun. And we're going to even get into more of the spiritual side of Christmas, which will be great. So
that'll be fun.
Stay tuned for all of that.
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.